I think you're very dynamic, Susanna, and I thank my ancestors and your ancestors collectively for bringing us together in that respect to have experienced each other. And on a higher note, what you just said so eloquently speaks to what Polihale represents. It's about leaving the physicality of the experience behind to truly be open for that spiritual experience to occur. So it's not contained in a physical structure like how most people will translate the word hale, building, house, to, rather than the universe, that we are like the sand, all by some shape, way, form, manner, a part of something that is bigger than all of us. One little tiny grain of sand is basically what we as mankind equate to. So when the physical body expires and you go back to the earth, to the honua where you came from, we become the sand again. We come back to that place where we first were initiated in this process of life. I feel that when that cycle is completed, we are truly blessed to know what that experience was about and how Alohana and the work you do with Alohana, which I think is synergy in just the name, how you came to that fruition of the name and inspiration of that name, and how it came to you in the vision that, you cannot have one without the other. And that's really dynamic for me, hearing that term Alohana, because if you do not have your family or your genealogy and your pedigree and where you came from, and don't have that connection to those ancestors, then where is the aloha? When you say aloha, aloha has taken its toll in history, in time, as a word. But when you look at the underlying meaning of aloha, alo is your face or your presence. It can also be the physicality of your presence. Ha is the antithesis of that, which is your breath, which is the spirit. And ohana is that core root or core structure, entity, very powerful element in which all of our family comes from. And when you look at the greater scheme of things and mankind, we all came from one source. We came from one source.
And I feel when we are here, I sense being here is like where human started, even when we have this thinking of evolution and everything. But somehow, of course, of the volcano and all the different islands, but somehow this is so special to really grab into that void of the unknown, of the really, that we are connected to the stars, to the planets, and everything, and somehow really about creation. And that's very special. Like this time I really found on different places of the island different songs in the way of meaning, of a soul, of what kind of, is it related to life? If it's related to our soul development, that our soul, of course, makes different steps in make experiencing, and I think that's all about. We often forget it's about the soul. It's not so much. Okay, we are human beings. We need to live, but it's the soul and the energy.
Yes.
So I thank you.
Thank you, Susanna. And in closing, Alohana to me, when I heard that word stated by you, really weren't two things. They were one and the same. Just as we've shared today about this place and mankind and evolution and all of that, and connecting to the source to really become grounded and rooted into our ancestry, that cannot coexist without one or the other. So everything in Hawaiian has a necessary duality. It's not prescribed. It just occurs that way. You have the masculine, you have the feminine, you have the upright, you have the recumbent, you have, you know, the east and the west, where new life comes and where life ends. So it's all one big, extremely eloquent life. And if you are so caught up with the physicality and not allow yourself that opportunity to really delve or experience by going on these little treks and going to these sites and places as you have in Sardinia, like Italy, and here in Hawaii, as you've come many times and have experienced, and every time the experience is somewhat similar but always different. Just like time, you know, it's like a dial on the clock, and every time it moves you change a bit because of what you've experienced, but then you go back to the source to share with what you have experienced, to bring it back to a heightened awareness of self. You get to feel that frequency of that heightened experience even more in depth. So thank you, Susanna, for your visit. My family and I love you very dearly. We shall miss you, and we know that it's only a goodbye for a little while, for you will be back, and for us, you know, we will always welcome you, and you'll always be a part of us.
Thank you.
Susanna.
Thank you. Aloha.
Aloha.